Hello everyone, my name is Chance Brunton and welcome back to Zero Escape Virtue's Last Reward. I'm joined once again by Tyler.
Hello.
We have just finished the game and now just have post-credit content to deal with. So we are going to maybe learn a little bit more about the secrets and backstory of just what happened in this very confusing plotline.
Yep. Sigma has just completed his first jump from being stabbed to saving Phi from being stabbed from Akane.
Yeah, and himself dying in the process, I guess.
Yeah.
The older Sigma, anyway.
Yeah. Imagine knowing that you're gonna eventually jump into your own death.
He just always knows how he's gonna go then, I guess.
Yeah. And when.
Yeah.
More motivation to get the other ending.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so this is just after the bombs have gone off?
Today is April 13th, 2029.
Right after the reactors exploded.
And this is the evening news. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I don't have any news to read. All of our station's reporters have passed after contracting Radical 6. So have my... Excuse me. I've managed to keep us on the air until now. But I'm out of tricks. It's time for me to sign off. This concludes our broadcast day. I pray that someday our world can be cleansed of this horrible plague. Goodbye.
Yikes. I think you'd do that off air, but...
I mean, it doesn't matter to her anymore.
Sure. For a moment, I just stared at the TV. The roar of the static seemed to fill the entire room, until, with a click, disappeared too. Had the power gone out? I heard footsteps behind me, and turned around. You! Akane?
It looks like the first step was successful.
What the hell? You killed me!
Killed?
I guess technically you're gonna kill me 45 years from now, but still!
Hey, no need to be rude about it. I didn't kill you. I hit you with the butt of the knife. You're fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The visual definitely made it seem like the front, but
Yeah.
I guess it's deception.
Okay.
Because you're supposed to think it's life or death without actually being life or death.
Yeah, but is it deception then or now? Is she just trying to keep up the pretense so that we think that we're gonna be alright? But then she's like, no, I really needed to make this compelling, so I did actually strike you with the front of the knife. Sorry.
Hopefully not.
Yes. You and Phi needed to experience a state of crisis. That was the only way.
Me and Phi?
Yes. I only told you about you, but we also needed Phi to jump.
And she knows this because we just replaced our
No.
older self who explained all this to her?
Yeah, there's a self between, like, this jump and the game itself, which is right when you were taken to right now. That has already explained the full plan to Akane, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what happens next, right?
We go to the moon?
Correct. We will be leaving tomorrow, April 14th, 2029. We've nearly finished preparing your shuttle. Only a few last-minute checks and additions. You'll be traveling to Rhizome 9, along with 3 treatment pods.
Alice and Clover, right?
Yes,
What about the third one? Who's in there?
Phi. We put her into cold sleep 2 days ago. She appeared at our headquarters and volunteered to be frozen. That wasn't the Phi who jumped from point C, though. It was Phi before she jumped from point A to point D. In other words, she was following the same path you are. And she still is.
Then that means that after you froze her, the point C version of her jumped back into her body.
Yes. The point C version of Phi is sleeping in that pod. She'll stay there for the next 45 years.
I guess she makes the
Sleeping
same
in
jumps as
ice.
you, but like this jump is sort of pointless to her because she's frozen in ice.
So she's frozen for the next 45 years.
Yeah, so that her body doesn't age.
But then that means that when she wakes up, she'll have already been through all this.
Yeah, and she'll jump with you after you finish playing the game, I guess.
Oh, right. So when the old you jumps back into your body, old her will jump back into hers.
Yeah.
Right.
So she'll be awake right after she wakens from cold sleep, but basically just to be told, like, everything's ready, now time to actually go back for her.
So at point B, we return to point A to stop all this. She will also return to point A?
Yeah, just without having aged mentally 45 years because she was frozen.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That's why she gets in the pod.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So that's why she didn't look old. So why don't you just stick me in one of those pods? Because you have work to do?
We can't do that.
Why not?
You haven't figured it out? You have to spend the next 45 years working on the AB project. After arriving at Rhizome 9, you must master genetic engineering and artificial intelligence programming, among other disciplines. Otherwise, you will be unable to create Kyle, Luna, and Lagomorph. And, of course, you will need to develop the chromatic doors and the bracelets. You will also be the person who summons Tenmyoji and Quark. Once you've completed all the preparations, then the project can actually begin.
Do we also make the cure for Radical 6, or did somebody else do that?
Hopefully it's someone else.
We've already got quite a lot on our plate, don't we?
Yeah.
January 25th, 2074. You will defrost Phi and carry her to the third AB room. Once you've done that, the 22-year-old version of you from point A will force you out. And you'll just go back 45 years to your own body on December 25th, 2028.
It doesn't make a lot of sense for the version of me that doesn't know what I'm doing to force the other one out. You'd think that the one who knows what they're doing would be doing all the forcing.
I guess. There isn't really a you that knows what he's doing, though, yet.
There never is. And then I change history. Do you really think I can keep the virus from getting out?
You have to. If you don't, billions of people will die.
The point of just
Only
not
you
jumping
and Phi can
directly
save
back
them.
is so that you do gain more experience through the creation of the AB game, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So you can become smart while retaining your strong young body, I guess.
Right.
That you can decide what age you joined in on the project.
What about you? Aren't you an Esper too?
I can't do anything on my own. If this is going to work, I'll need your help.
So, what do I need to do?
What do you mean?
Like, what specific actions do I need to take? When Phi and I jump to point A, what are we going to do then?
You'll both enter the Mars mission test site.
And after that?
I don't know.
What?
I'm sorry. I really don't know anything about what happens in there. We don't know how the Radical 6 escaped. We don't even know why it was there in the first place.
Oh, crap. Then we're screwed!
That's why we need your help. You have the ability to jump through time and across parallel worlds. We need you to figure out what happened in that test facility. Things will be difficult, and I'm sure you will find yourself in a great deal of danger. But I believe the two of you can overcome any obstacle.
Wait. How do you know it's so
The
dangerous?
67-year-old version of you told me what happened. He wasn't able to stop the virus. So I suppose you could say you told me after you failed.
What did I say?
That the test facility is full of traps. There was one point, A woman's life was in danger.
Oop.
You risked yourself for her sake, and lost your arms and your right eye.
Trying to remember the third game. And when that was. My arms and my right eye. What the hell? Suddenly, a low rumble shook the building. What happened to our ABT? Or did we invent that later?
I assume you invent it later, just like you invent the rest of Luna, or the golems in general.
What was that?
Go have a look.
I moved slowly to the window and peered outside. On the horizon, I could see a massive mushroom cloud climbing slowly toward the sky. I feel like being that close to the explosion, we're not going to live long enough to all have all this happen. Would we really be able to change the course of history? No, that was the wrong way to look at it. It couldn't be a question. I had to change history. We could save the world. I'm going to change history. I stared at the darkening skies above us and steeled myself. I would succeed. Except for the fact that, I had already failed, as Akane had just said.
Yeah, but not the you right now. You could jump back and make different decisions.
Achievement unlocked Fire and Ice. Yeah, but isn't that what the other me also thought? I feel like this is a loop-type scenario. It's a loop that can't really be changed, because if we did change it, it would be a paradox.
Yeah, I guess. It's complicated, just like the entire game. And,
this is the other one?
Yeah, this is from right after, I guess, the old you jumps into, like, Sigma's body again. Yeah.
So this is where we will jump back and find out that Akane really did use the butt of the knife?
Yeah. Probably.
Or else it's going to be a really short jump.
Yeah. You're also taking the perspective, though, of a different character, Kay or Kyle.
Oh.
Where?
I see you've finally woken up, Kyle.
Kyle?
Ah, yes. Of course. You've only just woken up in this timeline. It's only natural for some of your memories to be missing.
I lurched upright, jumped off the bed, and ran around to the other side of the partition. The mirror over the sink was covered with a film of dirt. I wiped it off with my sleeve, and my reflection stared back at me. It does make sense now why we haven't seen the main character at all this whole time.
Yeah, they intentionally often cut off your head and pick the close-ups of you acting with someone else.
There was no mistake. The reflection belonged to
Kyle Climb. So, I'm Dr. Climb? Zero Senior's clone?
What? How do you know that? Shouldn't you still be suffering from amnesia?
An excellent question. One I didn't know the answer to myself. I knew who Kyle Climb was. In another history, he had been called K and had worn a suit of armor. He hadn't just worn the armor in that history, though. Apparently he'd worn it all his life. Kyle had been born and raised in this lunar installation, which seemed to be called Rhizome 9. Rather late in his life, Akane had appeared as a mother figure, and he had consequently grown very attached to her. I knew everything about him, but even though I knew it, I didn't feel it. Was I really Kyle Climb? Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw his face. The spitting image of Sigma Climb in his younger days. I looked down. There was Dio, still handcuffed. I turned back around to Luna.
What day is today?
January 27th, 2074.
And today is the last day of the AB project. Akane has explained everything in the garden. And she drew a knife and attacked Phi. How long have I been asleep?
About 5 hours in real time. For them, it would have seemed like a little more than 2 hours.
So they still haven't been treated for their Radical 6?
No, they've all been given the antiviral. It just takes a while to have an effect.
I see. So the consciousness of the younger Sigma has gone back into the past. It should have happened right after Akane attacked Phi, right?
Yes,
Why am I here?
the doctor carried you back here. You were in the pod in the garden.
So the person you call the doctor is Sigma Climb, as inhabited by his age-appropriate consciousness.
Yes, but how do you know that?
That also confirms that Sigma's
Dio
not
seems to have
actually
remained
dead.
unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've been administering Soparil whenever he gets restless.
What about the others?
They've all gone off to different areas. Tenmyoji and Quark, for instance.
They've gone off to ride the Zero Bunny.
Right!
That's your job.
Mr. Climb!
So the sleepyhead's finally up, huh?
What are you two doing here?
You don't know where we are?
This is the upper floor of the pressure exchange chamber. The real one.
Mm-hmm.
We were just about to get dressed and head out.
You plan to return then? To Earth, I mean.
Yeah.
Sigma told us where we could find the shuttle that brought us here. Well, guess he's not really the Sigma I knew anymore. He's Dr. Climb now, or Zero Senior, depending on how you look at it.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Well, I'm just curious why you would choose to return to a devastated planet when you could stay here.
How's staying here gonna help? You aren't gonna say something idiotic about how we should wait here until Sigma changes the past, are you? You can't wait for something that's already happened. Grammar doesn't work that way. Hell, nature doesn't work that way. You following me? We've already lived through history. Sigma failed to keep the virus from getting out. About 45 years ago, Radical 6 created a pandemic, and the antimatter reactors blew up. That all happened. Whatever Sigma does in the past, history's not going to change. In fact, it's because of what he did or didn't do in the past that we've got this past and present. Let me give you an example. Imagine a group of 100 motorcycles driving down an endless freeway. Eventually, they hit a junction. The road splits in two. One freeway continues off northwest, and the other stretches out to the northeast. So one guy, we'll call him S, pipes up. "Let's go northwest," he says. So they take the northwestern road, but about a mile past the intersection, something horrible happens. A semi driving the other way veers into their lane and plows through the bikers. 90 of them die. The surviving 10 are wounded, but survive. They don't stop, though. They keep riding down that highway, and eventually they'd gone 10,000 miles. Then suddenly, something happens that they couldn't have predicted. S, who had survived, suddenly has his consciousness thrown back in time. He ends up back in his own body just before they reach the junction. He remembers everything. So what does S do? What anybody would do. Let's go northeast. That means all 100 of the bikers survive to reach their destination, happy and healthy. And they all live happily ever after. That's what you're thinking, right? It's a great outcome for the 100 bikers that went northeast. But what about the 10 that went northwest and survived the accident?
Huh? Wouldn't it be 9 people? I mean, S's mind went back in time, right?
Right. Okay, 9 people then. What happens to the reality they were living? Does it just disappear when S changes the past? It's not as if it was only bad things that happened during that 10,000-mile trip. Maybe one of them fell in love with a woman working at a gas station they stopped at and had a child. Maybe one of them picked up a homeless kid who joined them on their adventure. That 10,000-mile journey would be full of stories. Friendships, farewells, romances. The loss of those 90 lives is horrible and unfortunate. But what would rewriting their history mean? The 9 who survived lived full lives. How can it be right to just erase all that? The survivors overcame their own misery and loss and made the best they could of the hand they'd been dealt. Isn't that worth something? Isn't that the best thing that humans can aspire to? Is there really any point to a world where everything is happy? Are people who struggle for a better life just idiots? Being human is about fighting, even when it seems hopeless, and finding happiness, even in a world that hates it. Are you saying that's worthless? If you're saying rewriting the past will erase all these other timelines, then whatever God wrote those rules can Look, I'm just not going to accept that, all right? You get it?
If Sigma changes the past, then you and Quark will never meet.
Is he right?
No, it's not going to happen. We're here right now. This is reality. Even if Sigma does change the past, we're not just going to disappear or something.
Oh! Then that means we get to stay together?
Yeah, all the timelines are still going to exist.
Yeah.
Which kind of begs the question of what the hell is Sigma even doing?
He's
What was the point?
he's allowing another timeline to exist by participating in the construction of it, I guess, sort of.
Yeah.
Hopefully better
Although
timeline.
it also begs the question, though, what is the point? Because if he doesn't do anything, that timeline will never exist. Are the people who don't exist that could have existed going to regret it? I think not.
It's
right?
kind
You
of
can't
complicated.
You can't regret the fact that you don't exist, right?
Yeah.
So if it's not going to do anything for the people who already exist, I feel like it's kind of pointless.
It sort of does something for them, though, like, in the moment in the past, it does something for them in that past that creates a better future for them, probably. Like, with the Bikers example, it might be possible that, like, those 9 people lived better lives than the 100 other people would have if they went the other way, but you still want 100 people alive in some way, just because you don't know that for sure.
I suppose.
Good.
Thanks, kid.
I understand how you feel. Why you want to return to Earth is clear. You have lives there, I imagine. There are likely people waiting for you.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Have you already said goodbye to the others?
Vi, Luna, Alice, and Clover all saw us off. We told them we'd see them again someday, and then came here.
They were the only people you want to say goodbye to?
No point saying anything to Dio.
Well, I thought you might want to say, screw you, one last time or something.
Yeah, or punch him again.
Yeah, give him a good kick.
Besides, he's asleep. You were asleep too.
Sorry, but we didn't really know much about you.
You have a point. Akane was in the armor in this timeline, after all. What about Sigma?
Well, he's not really Mr. Sigma anymore.
Of course. He is Dr. Klein now that his consciousness has returned.
Yeah, but more importantly, he's the guy who brought us all here. Not a lot of warm feelings there, you know?
And Akane?
Never mind her. She's just like him. Not the Akane I knew. She must have seen some pretty awful things over the years. Hell, she might not even be human anymore. But the Akane Kurashiki I know isn't here. She's not anywhere.
In the end, Clover and I were just pawns. Pawns to be used and then gotten rid of. Still, it's not like we were completely resentful. We had to be here to help change the past. That part's easy to understand.
Well, I'm glad it's easy for someone.
But
Yeah.
Kinda sucks, though.
It's really hard to debate,
I mean,
like,
Sigma and
moral
Vi
ethics
have it
about
easy.
time travel, really. And multiverses.
Because it's also, very unclear, because it's, science fiction that is not fully explained. So it's like there's a lot of questions about what really is happening with the parallel worlds' interpretations of things.
Yeah.
They get to go back to December 25th in 2028. They'll stop the Radical Six and save the world, and then they'll have a nice, normal future to look forward to. In other words,
They get to go back to point E and just enjoy history like it was supposed to happen.
But we don't. We're stuck with point C as our starting point.
You told us about Tenmyoji's story, right? The one with the motorcycles? It would be like if Alice and I were kidnapped right before the intersection. Then whoever grabbed us takes us to wherever the bikers are going, 10,000 miles to the northwest.
Don't get us wrong. We know why we had to be here. Without us, S's consciousness wouldn't have been able to go back to right before the intersection.
If that couldn't happen, then the fate of those 90 dead bikers would be sealed. But
it's still not the best situation for those of us left in the Northwest. We're stuck in the reality where the 90 bikers died.
are we just supposed to go live on Earth? It's a wasteland now. And what about our friends and families? We left a whole world behind 45 years ago.
Even if it is for the greater good?
It just doesn't seem fair, does it?
Yeah, it's a little bit much.
So we went and talked to the old lady.
She told us that there is one way.
One way we could get back to the past.
Let's say you do go back to the past. Wouldn't that cause your minds to get thrown back here? That seemed to be how Sigma and Phi's jumps worked, at least.
Yes, you're right.
But this is different.
Different? How so?
From what she said, it sounds like there's a way we can send our bodies back in time, too.
That's ridiculous. It would create a paradox. How could you have 2 Clovers and 2 Alices at the same time?
But that wouldn't happen.
Akane says there's a way around that.
How on earth does she plan to do that?
Schrodinger's
cat.
Oh, hey, Kyle. Figured you'd come here eventually.
Where's Dr. Klein? Luna said you were with him.
He said he was tired, so he's off resting right now. There's a bedroom at the end of the hallway. He's in there if you're curious. Oh, right. He told me to turn on this hologram projector thing when you showed up. Want me to start it?
Sure.
Glad to see you. There isn't anything in particular that I have to tell you. However, I imagine there are a great number of things weighing on your mind. I'd love to answer all your questions, but unfortunately, my circumstances make that an impossibility. I hope you can forgive me. Everything I know, Phi should also know. I have instructed her to answer any questions anyone might have. Anyone other than Kyle, that is.
What does he mean, other than Kyle?
Who knows? Is there anything you want to ask?
Right, well, I guess I may as well cut to the chase. Just who are you, Phi?
I'm not Superman, that's for sure.
Oh, God.
And I'm not Batman or Spider-Man or Aquaman or a merman
K-Man
or a wolfman.
or whatever.
I'm not a Brahmin or Kamen or Ramen. I'm not a Cayman either, so you really don't need to worry about anything.
Please don't dodge the question. About 5 hours ago, Akane attacked you with a knife. That triggered something which sent your mind back to the past, correct? Specifically, you were sent to Point D, April 13th, 2029. On that date, your body was already in Akane's custody. Although by then you were in cold sleep, you wouldn't have regained consciousness, but your mind was now inhabiting that body. That pod was your home for 45 years. You slept there, frozen, until the time was right. Then on January 25th, 2074, you were finally thawed out, even though you didn't wake up. Still unconscious, you were carried to the AB room. That was when your consciousness changed bodies again. A version of you from December 25th, 2028 arrived, pushing you and sending you back to December 25th, 2028. This is when you finally woke up. In 2028, you found and joined forces with Sigma, whose older mind was inhabiting his younger body. Together, you attempted to infiltrate the Mars mission test facility. Unfortunately, your plan failed. The Radical Six did escape on New Year's Eve. That failure determined the path you followed. Instead of going along the line that branches out to the right from Point E, you headed straight to Point D. Point D being April 13th of the following year. That was the day that you made your way to Akane's hideout and asked to be put into one of the treatment pods. Another consciousness enters your body around that time from the future. It is, of course, the version of you that left your body when Akane attacked you in the garden. This caused the two versions of you to swap places, and you moved 45 years into the future, where you woke up on the garden floor. That put you on the line that comes here. So if we discount the time you spent in cold sleep, for you only 3.5 months have passed since that happened. That being when you were sent back into the past from the garden. Have I missed anything?
No, everything you talked about you got right.
Well, what do you mean by that?
I'm kind of an unknown variable in this equation. You could think of me as a kind of X factor. It's taken me the last 3.5 months to understand it.
And I haven't understood anything in the last 3.5 seconds. Could you please explain?
It's kind of like the relationship between classical mechanics and modern physics. Strictly speaking, you can't combine velocities with v1 plus v2. v1 plus v2 divided by 1 plus v1 times v2 over c squared is the actual equation. Of course, the sort of velocities we encounter in day-to-day life don't come close to being c squared, which is the speed of light squared. That means that 1 plus v1 times v2 divided by c squared is usually going to evaluate to something pretty close to 1.
Sure.
Since that would mean dividing by 1, it's usually okay to just skip that step and use v1 plus v2.
I imagine this is highly confusing if you haven't already gotten an engineering degree.
Yeah. I
See what
didn't
I'm
know
saying?
about the existence of the equation, but I do understand the point, sort of.
Oh yeah, I had to do this a lot in physics class. Because what she's basically describing there is, the relativistic change that you make.
Yeah.
In most situations, it works, even if it isn't technically correct. So you knew enough to get the stuff you were talking about right. As long as you stick to that, you won't run into any problems.
I don't quite understand. In fact, I feel like you're dodging my questions.
So is that what you wanted to ask about?
No. What I really want to know is what happened between Christmas and New Year's Eve in 2028.
I think that's the third game, right?
Yeah. That's what they're building
You
up
and
to,
Sigma
is
infiltrated the
find out
Mars
what
mission
happens
test site,
next
didn't you?
on Zero Escape, the trilogy.
Yeah. Next time on the next Zero Escape game.
Yeah.
Yes.
What happened there? How did Sigma lose his eye and both his arms? And why was Radical 6 in there in the first place?
That's something I don't remember. That bit. I almost remember Sigma getting injured, but I don't remember Radical 6 at all.
What could a deadly virus have to do with the simulated mission to space?
Sorry, but I can't tell you that.
Why?
Because it would change history. There is a history where the virus didn't escape. That's the line that goes to the right of point E. In that timeline, humanity isn't heading for annihilation, and Earth isn't red. The future is much brighter. But if I tell you what you're asking me right now, then that reality will disappear. You understand?
I don't. Why would all of that disappear if you told me what I want to know?
Because it's an observation that will then dictate the result of the experiment.
Yeah.
You're about to go back to the past, right?
Part of this is it's not just technically Kyle, it's also the player, which is how he knows so many things about so much when he was frozen. And
Yeah, that's the thing. Are we Kyle or are we Sigma at the moment?
I think you're
Have
meant
we-
to be some sort of weird extra, sort of Esper-like ability or something.
Right. Because it's not been very clear. Like, they've seemed to indicate that we're not really Kyle. We're just
Yeah.
in Kyle's body.
Mhm.
So it almost seemed like Sigma had leapt into Kyle's body. Unexpectedly.
This is still confusing to me. I mean, there's not really much you haven't seen yet that I have seen.
Right.
Besides anything you forgot from the third game, but
Which is quite a bit, because I apparently really don't remember it very well.
yeah, but I don't think that's important to this scene.
The past? Don't be silly. I can't do that.
Then where the hell did you learn all this stuff? I just listened to you tell me a bunch of things you shouldn't have known about. You were sleeping in the pod in the garden. You just woke up. So how can you know all this? You know my past. Sigma's past.
It is
I
true.
shall give you your answer. You are not Kyle Climb. Your body is Kyle's, but your consciousness is not.
So are we Sigma, though?
Think about it. Do you really believe you are Kyle?
No.
Or could you be someone else entirely?
Then, where is the real Kyle's consciousness?
He was thrown out when you entered. Right now, in a manner of speaking, he has arrived at December 25th, 2028. His consciousness has gone into a body from that time. I doubt you know how much the doctor loves Kyle. He raised him on his own. Kyle is irreplaceable. Do you really think he would go back to the past and leave Kyle behind here? I know what I told the others, that Kyle was Dr. Climb's spare. But that was not his only purpose. Kyle's consciousness is integral to what we are trying to accomplish. This new mission begins on Christmas and ends on New Year's Eve 2028. Its purpose will be to infiltrate the test facility and prevent the spread of the virus. For this to happen, Kyle is absolutely necessary.
So is she saying that Sigma isn't actually going to go back to stop things, but Kyle is going to go back to stop things? In Sigma's body?
I have no idea, honestly, because
Is Sigma in the third game? That's Kyle, not Sigma?
I'm not entirely sure how exactly Kyle works out in the third game, even with all the knowledge from it.
And that is why he created him?
Yes.
So now that my consciousness has entered his body, the doctor has achieved his objective. Kyle has gone back to 2028 to participate in his mission.
Correct.
There's one thing that troubles me. Kyle was created before reaching point B from point D. That means his body did not exist on Christmas in 2028. Does that mean he has entered my body? Have we just switched places?
I suppose you could put it that way, yes.
That's ridiculous. What's going to happen to me? You telling me I have to spend the rest of my life here in this box, living in a borrowed body?
I mean, I have to go back to living in a younger, stronger version of my own body? Why would anybody want that?
Well,
No,
he would have had
not
the
at
same
all.
body anyways. Or about the same body.
What?
Like, if we're comparing, like, jumping back to the 2028 versus, like, jumping to Kyle, they're sort of the same age, probably.
Oh yeah, but this is like in this version. This would be as opposed to
guess.
if he was in his own body right now.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
This version of him with 2028 would be in one of the two bodies, and he lucks out if he's in the young strong body.
Yeah, I guess.
Especially now that, you know, Alice and Clover are also stuck here unless they get to go back.
I mean, they have the choice
You
to...
can travel freely through time and space.
right.
You are
Oh,
an
sorry.
uncontrolled variable that entered our closed system.
I
What
was
were you saying?
thinking, I was thinking you meant, like, Earth versus the Moon or something, but yeah, I guess they did mention something about going back through Schrödinger cat methods, which is probably... I don't know how that works either, entirely. They don't explore that in the third game, I don't think.
Maybe. I think there might be a link to that in the third game.
Yeah, at
But
least
now I'm afraid to say because there might be spoilers involved.
I don't remember Alice or Clover showing up in the third game, is all I mean, I guess.
Yeah, but the technology to send them back, I think, is referenced.
Maybe, yeah.
As such, the rules of this world do not apply to you.
I have no idea what...
Please don't try to play dumb. I know what you are. Surely you must know by now, too. You are about to go into the past and save the world. Phi and Sigma, even with all of his future knowledge, will need your help.
But we've just established we're not Kyle, and now she's talking to us like we are Kyle.
She's talking to the player in this case.
Right.
Only you can right the horrible wrongs of our past. Only you can save the world.
That's also why
There's no way.
Phi's not. That's also why Phi wasn't able to tell you what happened, because if she says what happens, then that's the route you go down, I guess, in the third game.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. You have to. Don't you want to know the truth? Don't you want to know what happened in between Christmas and New Year's Eve in 2028?
Well, yes, I do, but
Then you must believe. Reality is shaped by what we believe reality should be. If observation can change the motion of a particle, then how is it odd to think that human thought can shape reality? Your will can change history. The world will be reshaped into the one you imagine. Remember what I've told you. Only you can change history. Only you can save the world.
And only you can prevent forest fires. Achievement unlocked. A certain point of view.
Yeah.
So that was the alternative end.
Yeah, that's honestly as confusing as it is helpful.
Yeah, no kidding. That was the unmarked Akane end, apparently.
Yeah, it's old Akane ending, and the other one was like young.
Oh, the
Akane.
other one's also an Akane ending. Yeah, I hadn't realized.
Yeah.
So we have now completely finished Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward. And I did not realize just how heavily this game sets up for the third game, which makes it twice as funny how the first thing I ever saw was the third game, and I didn't see any of this setup going into it.
Yeah, this game does a really good job like incorporating the other games into its story. Just the existence of this ending also leaves some questions like how it happens in the third game, because like you have already that recording that mentions 6 people die, but also, as you'll see if you look at the cast for the third game, there's Akane and Junpei and Sigma and Phi, which is already 4 people in that one voice we hear, which leaves 5 people somehow living, 6 dying, and 9 existing somehow. So that's leaving a lot of questions also for the third game.
Does that mean that everything in this game canonically follows off of the route where 6 people died?
Yeah, there is a Virtue's Last Reward ending in the third game, Zero Escape Time Dilemma.
There's a route that leads to where we're at now.
Yeah.
And a different route that leads to off the chart that we were looking at, the one that splits right.
Yeah, I mean, technically most of them do that, but there's also a good ending that leads to the ending you want, which is everyone who's meant to survive survives.
Yeah, and I do remember that one, because that one had a really interesting twist about how you get to that in the end once you figured out all this stuff about jumping in morphogenetic fields.
Yeah,
and then where you go. That had a really good twist to it. Yeah, so this was a really interesting, really fun game.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that I had seen them in order now, but, couldn't be helped. I didn't know before I'd seen the first thing I saw of Zero Escape what an amazing series this was going to turn out to be, so I had no idea that it was so important for me to go back to the beginning. But even so, I've really greatly enjoyed it. I am still confused by it, but knowing that like you and Rusty also still are confused and have seen more than I have, because you got to see everything back to back to back.
Yeah.
All in rapid succession, and we're still left somewhat confused by some things. And Rusty not only did that watching you play, but before that, he had already been acquainted. So when he saw you do it all back to back to back, it was his at least second, or if not like third time through the series.
Yeah.
And there's still things he can't explain about what's going on.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend doing it until you have like a good understanding of the series already, but definitely looking at the wiki once you finish all of the games is helpful and has a lot of trivia that you wouldn't pick up on it otherwise.
Yeah.
Which is how I learned some things.
Yeah, but this was pretty amazing. There were a lot of twists that I did not call.
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed by the fact that I didn't call Luna being the robot.
Yeah.
Because I knew there was something wrong with her for some time.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, for some reason, I never made that connection. That was like the one possibility I did not entertain, as I was thinking, could she be Zero? Could she be planting the bombs? The one thing I didn't think of was, can she be the robot? And that's the one that she actually was.
Yeah.
And it seems doubly funny now because I was recently editing some of the earlier episodes when Dio was accusing Quark of
and you were
doing
like
horrible things.
Thinking maybe Quark was actually the bad one.
Yeah. Or, what if Quark is actually Zero?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I didn't suspect Dio of much, but I did suspect him of that.
Well, that was an amazing adventure. I am really glad we went down it. Thank you all so much for watching along too. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. Zero Escape is pretty amazing. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.